Gattaca and Code 46, Big Brother Spying Through a Microscope, a review by Ciro Discepolo. In the opinion of many, myself included, we are increasingly moving toward a global police state, as in George Orwell's long-term vision, but where the means of implementing total and constant espionage will not be the old Orwellian cameras, but our DNA. So I'd like to share with my followers a short essay I wrote many years ago. During a public debate, a young university student asked me if I believed that, with the help of astrology, it would be possible in the not-too-distant future to prevent Hitler from coming to power, for example, by screening the population through natal charts. I responded by referring to two films that has given me considerable pause in recent years. Gattaca, a 1997 American film directed by Andrei Nicolom, and Code 46, a 2003 British production directed by Michael Winterbottom. The films have a common thread: a near-future society governed, administered, and planned by total genetic control that clearly aims to minimize nature's errors, while simultaneously imposing a dictatorship of the perfect race over the invalids. The reference, albeit indirect, to George Orwell's celebrated 1984 appears more than explicit. The dictatorship of the party, of the palace, of a minority convinced that a society, to function well, must above all be able to control every single citizen. In Orwell's masterpiece, the means of investigation were countless cameras, hidden in every corner of the inhabited world, placed to spy on every tiny movement of all living beings. In Gattaca and Code 46, the palace uses a subject's DNA for the same purpose. Through a drop of blood or even a tiny fragment of skin, an eyelash or a drop of saliva, any police inspector can know everything about everyone, and thus gain total control over humanity. William, in Code 46, is a Sphinx inspector tasked with discovering and arresting Maria, Samantha Morton, who manufactures fake palumbres that allow humans to leave vast megalopolises that should be paradise, a Shanghai that didn't need a super-modern makeover, but are instead probably already hell, to travel to other megalopolises in the inhabited world. Anyone who commits a crime is sent to Fuera, simply outside, a sort of permanent purgatory represented by a total desert, where the world of those without a palambra resembles an immense court of miracles, crowded with cripples, beggars, and the dregs of humanity. Code 46 strictly prohibits those with similar DNA from mating, and the genetic big brother that monitors everything knows in real time if such a violation has occurred. Thus, Inspector William goes from hunter to prey and ends up, along with his young lover, in Fuera. Obviously, the film, as you've probably gathered, also intertwines with other important themes that concern us closely, such as the freedom to choose, the original sin of Adam and Eve, and the possibility of breaking free from a pattern and a destiny. Andrei Nicol's other intriguing film also intertwines and develops on a fairly parallel track. In Gattaca, humans are conceived in test tubes, and parents are allowed to decide the future child's eye color, musical and athletic inclinations, and much more. A few last romantics still rely on chance and conceive in the back seat of a car, but the punishment comes direct and relentless. A few seconds after birth, a DNA test will reveal that this newborn will die at 30 from a serious heart defect with a 99% probability. The father of this unfortunate child, almost out of spite, decides to name him Vincent, and Vincent will dream throughout his childhood of being one not only in name but also in deed. His brother Anton is a valid, conceived in test tubes and destined to live among society's elite. Vincent, like the other non-valids, is assigned to the most menial jobs. The parallels with the Greek tower from which sick children were thrown, and with the Nazis' ethnic cleansing, are self-evident. But if the story ended here, it would be very banal and uninteresting for us astrologers. No, this is the story of a challenge and a redemption. Vincent refuses to accept his status as an invalid and dreams throughout his childhood and youth of becoming an astronaut, of going to the stars, a clear Adlerian compensation. However, the Gattaca Corporation's gates are locked and inescapable. Entry is only possible if a tiny amount of one's urine establishes the candidate as a valid with a very high IQ and no physical defects. How then will Vincent overcome such a barrier? By resorting to genetic fraud and borrowing the genes of a super valid who ended up in a wheelchair in a car accident. To do this, the protagonist of our story will even have to have his legs lengthened to match the other's height, shave his body every morning so not even the smallest bit of waste falls on his electronic keyboard, and urinate through a micropump that releases the super valid fluid at every morning check. The plot of the story is truly intriguing, and even the constant role shifting between the valid and the invalid is a fascinating one to decipher. In the set design, in the dialogue, in the seemingly insignificant plot twists. Every evening, returning from Gattaca, Vincent descends an interminable spiral staircase, at the bottom of which sits the super-valid Jerome Morrow, Jude Law, sitting in a wheelchair. As in Joseph Conrad's The Secret Roommate, there's a constant role shifting in the eternal Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde double. The film takes on a sinister tone due to a murder necessary to silence the president of the space company who had discovered the deception. At the end of the film, Vincent, after beating his brother Anton for the second time in a breathless swimming race, "The secret of my victory is that I never spared my breath to get back to shore," and also saving Anton's life for the second time, manages to elude all surveillance and leaves for Titan, realizing his lifelong dream and opening a universe of hope for the non-invalids. Here it seems to me we go even beyond the concept of choice and free will. The film hypothesizes the possibility that something exists beyond DNA and other scientifically controllable elements that could allow you to go into space even if that was theoretically impossible. Can we say then that there is another variable, the stars in the astrological sense, that determines a man's destiny? Can we also maintain that any form of total control over human beings is both stupid and racist, to answer the student in the initial question? And can we also add, as I've been thinking all my life now, that our destiny is written down to the smallest details, but that each of us is capable of changing the script? So I'll leave you with endless other reflections and conclusions, if any, and I'd like to close with the film's final couplet, the words of Vincent, as he is propelled by the rocket towards Titan. "Someone said that every atom in our body belonged to a stair. Maybe I'm not leaving, maybe I'm coming home." Ciro Discepolo, many, many years ago,